love. Take a chance, do it all for love and no regrets. Up ahead there's an open door and I gotta find what I'm looking for, and I'm on my way. Well, time moves on and the days go by, but the sun don't set on the stars tonight, and I spread my wings. My head's in the clouds with my feet on the ground, my aim held high and I'm moving on. My time is now to make all my dreams come true, to let all the light shine through, so I can be everything I know that I could be, to find all the strength inside. Baby, just watch me fly. Now I have all I need to find the best in me. Well, isn't it time to open my mind and just believe? Just believe.
Hello, you are now live with Thrive with Dot and
Lany Ray.
welcome to our channel. And today we have a special treat. We have our co-host Josie and we have our special guest Pattie Brassard. We would like to welcome Pattie for a wonderfully informative and enjoyable show, and we are so glad you are here. So please join us and enjoy. I'd like to welcome Pattie Brassard, and this is her biography, and we'll get her to elaborate on it. Pattie is a Miq-mac tribal and Gaia shaman. She is Mixie or Mayan 99%, and a tribal warrior and army sergeant. And if that wasn't enough, an IT and information communications infrastructure person.
Geekette.
So,
I'm not proud.
you're not proud. Well, you should be proud. You've accomplished quite a lot, right? I mean, can you go into this a little bit more about the Miq-mac tribe in the beginning?
We were like the go-betweens. That's why we have such a large territory. From all the way out, St. Edward's Island, Nova Scotia, all the way over to the far side of the Great Lakes and all the way down as far as Philadelphia.
Really? Interesting.
That's, Canada and United States. So we were the only tribes that didn't give up territory, didn't have ET visitors with us during the flood, so we kept our heritage. All the other tribes had one type of ET or another down underground with them, and just spoiled their history and their tribal heritage. Take, for instance, most of the Southwest tribes revere the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is actually an Anunnaki ship. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So when it says Atlanta, Georgia, what is that talking about?
That was the center of the Mayan civilization.
Wow.
Everybody thinks of, it's South America and everything else. That's where, when Atlantis started to sink, most of the Mayans, they put out a distress call to space. A group of ETs called the Ramay came and took most of them off Earth because they knew what was coming. The ones that remained, once the Atlanteans got ashore, they ran for it. Most of them ended up in South America. And even at that, they didn't run far enough. Because their whole thing got corrupted and ended up in blood sacrifices and all of that. The whole influence of the Martian Atlanteans, the whole playing God thing. And they were doing really awful things on Atlantis at the time. There's a lot of light workers that were, present, incarnate as Atlanteans. They were moving souls into golems and everything else, which is, as I understand, is extremely painful.
Wow.
So,
So as a tribal warrior and army sergeant, how long were you in the army?
7 years, 3 wars, Grenada, Lebanon, Desert Shield.
Oh,
I was
wow.
part of the Freedom Team, the first group, Operation Iraqi Freedom, the first group that went over.
Wow, that must have been tough.
And we weren't, well, my group wasn't really over there for what was said we were over there for. We were doing quite another different thing, basically raiding it for all the ET artifacts and everything that Saddam had gathered up from the desert and all that. But bear in mind, you know, when the Tower of Babel was blown up with a nuke by the Draco, a lot of the whole area got contaminated. So there was a lot of ET tech out there that nobody could go out and collect. So the radiation tapered off. Matter of fact, that's why all the outer stones off the pyramids got ripped off to build housing and everything with. That's one of the 5 different types of stone that actually repel radioactive content. That's why all those stones are gone. People stole them to build their houses with.
Oh,
They
wow.
survived the radioactive fallout.
Oh, interesting. Huh. And I know you had worked for several companies in the IT field for.
Yeah, all IT and other things like Lockheed Martin, Grumman, you know, Polaris, Bell.
NASA.
Well, yeah, outside contractor to NASA. I built their computer lab
Wow.
back in 95, 96. So, yeah, I've been around.
Yeah, you've been around. Thank you for all your hard work, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to get started with the PowerPoint then?
Sure.
Okay. So I know we wanted to emphasize going within and connecting with our higher self and with source. So if you'd like to elaborate on that a little bit.
That's the shortest way to learn your way how to get out of here and graduate, is connecting with your higher self. Because in the process, you're probably going to bump across the member of the Council of 12. Everybody that's left down here on Earth that's actually human, have somebody upstairs in orbit to assist.
Oh, that makes me feel good. How about you, Lena?
Makes me feel really well. Happy.
That's nice to know. Somebody has our back, right? But the whole point is that, you know, we should not look at external to ourselves.
Right.
You know, we can look to each other for support.
There is no sky daddy.
And encouragement, right. But we shouldn't expect to be saved, in other words, right?
Yeah, and the one that was playing Sky Daddy, we killed him. So.
Okay, so he's not around anymore.
No. They're trying to make a replacement clone that ain't going to have anywhere near the power to go with the fake Return Jesus to the Trump Earth, the 3D one.
For New Earth.
Yeah. One of the well, we created 6. We gave 1 away to the Jinn and moved them all off of this planet onto that one and set them aside on their own path. The other 5 are different, well, I'll call them religious groups. The ones that have soul contracts, we're not allowed to interfere with soul contracts. So all the Christian groups that have that soul contract with the, you know, the fake Jesus return and the 1,000 years of peace and all that garbage, we got to give it to them. So they're not going to 4D right away. They're going to stay at 3D on another Earth for their 1,000 years to smarten up and learn, and you know, work out and or cancel that soul contract before they can go to 4D. Which time streams the opposite direction. So however long on the outbound journey of that 1,000 years it takes for them to become cognitively sorted out and get over the contract, then they go to 4D, and it's they got to come back the same amount. The whole thing's rigged so that everybody actually hits 5D for graduation at the same time. It may have a much longer path getting there, you know, up to 2,000 years in between, but everybody hits 5D at the same time. But a lot of people have to learn how to communicate telepathically, how to get along with both human form ETs that are on the side of white and the light, as well as the ones that don't look so human at all, because there's a good bit of those too that actually are decent people. So yeah, you got to learn to interact with ETs.
And I know we will get into this a little bit more, but my question would be then, how would one know for sure if they had a soul contract? Would you be able to connect with your higher self and ask questions, or your guides?
No, that's the entire point. These people, like the Christians, they have that soul contract. They don't contact their higher self. They basically signed on willingly to have another person playing God in between them and their full self. That's why I can't stand even the idea of it.
Okay, because it is going external and saying, okay, you do it, not me.
Putting another person,
exactly,
another entity between you and your full self.
Yeah,
And
so you
allowing
can't
them
blame
to
yourself
real
or
life and recycle you back and say, you know, and set different terms for your graduation than what they're supposed to be.
so assuming personal responsibility for your decisions and your actions and your words and your deeds is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's really important, I think. And of course, we should avoid fear porn and mainstream media, the TV especially, correct?
Yeah, that's all. A lot of it's all designed to actually wake up the people who are really, really asleep. So it's going to be upsetting to anybody who is awake already. That'll lower your frequency and make it harder for you to get to the point where you're ready to graduate.
I've found it harder and harder as I've grown to even watch a commercial or even watch a news. Like if you go into somebody's house and they're watching the news, it upsets you because you're not on that frequency anymore. Like you're not accepting that negativity. And
if you back up one screen, I added something to the listing,
Okay.
the bullet listing.
Which is?
Where'd it go? Oh, not that one.
Okay.
It's another one that's top one. I might have put it on the next one. Is cymatics.
Correct. I did see that earlier.
Visual stuff.
Okay.
Because, and again, it all comes down to frequency.
Yes.
So it's what your eye can process. The TV's running at 60 hertz. Your eye can only process 30 hertz. So they're slipping another screen in between everything you see on TV that your eye isn't even picking up. You're getting every other screen your eye is physically seeing, but the whole visual is actually going into your brain and getting processed without your eyes picking it up, so that your prefrontal cortex sees it. So the program is also in between.
Go ahead.
That's how that works.
So the
TV signal's coming in at 60 hertz. Two screens every 60, every 60 seconds. One out of every two screens you're missing. Your eye's not picking it up.
So am I correct in thinking that the conscious awareness sees half of what the subconscious awareness is actually picking up on?
No, the conscious mind sees just what the one your eye is picking up. Your subconscious is getting all of it.
Yes, that's what I meant.
And so then you'll start doing and behaving differently in a manner that isn't cohesive with your prefrontal cortex. But you'll have a gut instinct to react a certain way to certain data because of the programming. And that's what the Democrats are all about. If you go out and you see them that are protesting, and you start talking to them, they can't give you rational answers to your question. They've been programmed to behave that way for specific reasons, but they can't explain it. They can't give you a rational answer to your question on why are you here? What are you doing this for? What did this person do that you're protesting? They can't answer it. There isn't an answer. It's just programming. That's where it's really starting to show out.
And as the energies rise or fall, it's like a roller coaster ride, people seem to get triggered even more.
They get triggered easier because the frequency is already pushing the issue, as it will. The frequency, as it goes higher and higher, uncovers all the lies.
Right. And we're seeing that, and that's terrific.
The universal consciousness, the data I've gotten, those crystals in the whole South Pole, and even the data in the ley lines. I mean, as the energy comes up, all these things are, interacting.
Right.
Me recrystalling the sun, it's always pushing a higher frequency anyway.
The what crystal in the sun? Could you repeat that?
I recrystaled the sun quite a while back. That's why I went from a yellow to a blue-white. I upped the frequency. For the bad guys, that's like a permanent nails on the chalkboard scratching across. Sort of.
Right. Like heart music or high frequency music, right? So, and on here we're talking about how the optic nerve responds. We're explaining how the mind control actually works. That your frequency
propaganda. The propaganda is in between every other screen.
Right. I've seen where screens could be slowed down.
People who have recorded it, slowed it down, and then showed the in-between screens and all the programming. Yeah.
Especially in cartoons, I thought that was particularly sick.
They start to look real young.
Yeah. So,
that's why when you speak to these people, you can't reach them because you're using an audio channel, not the same channel that the programming went in. And with Common Core wiping out the ability to do cognitive linear thinking, to come to logical conclusions, attacking them by the ear ain't going to work because they can't do that kind of thinking to override the programming, unfortunately. So the only way you can reach them is visually. So that's why all the corrective stuff we're doing now we have to do is it has to be visual. It's the only way you're going to get it into the mind that's been corrupted with programming.
And that's exactly why we're doing a visual and auditory presentation with graphics. So
and
that's
why even Trump says, I can't tell you what I'm doing or about why I'm doing it. I have to show you. Same reason.
Makes a lot of sense to deprogram and insert. Kind of. That's neat. Yeah. And right now, the alternative media has been infiltrated. We know quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it can be a little confusing at times to search for information, and that's why we're here, right? To clarify certain things, and to answer questions people may have. And this is just the first of more videos to come in which we will, hone in on certain topics. Whereas this will be more of an overview, but a very informative overview. We're going to get deep into whatever subjects the flow goes, right? And then going forward, we can hone in on time travel or AI or whatever, you know, we can focus on, especially if people have questions, right? So
one of the things you need to just stress is anybody who won't give you information for free. I'm sorry. I mean, I ask, and we'll have posted here links to our PayPal and everything, and I ask for donations. I don't demand money, and I don't refuse to give information if they don't. The information needs to go to everybody, and anybody who says, well, I can't give it to you unless you pay this amount or that amount, just trust them right off the bat. More than likely, due to the fix we've put the cabal members in, they're all broke. They're looking for any means of making large sums of money off the body public.
And you see that, people have their books, their classes, but there is a fairness in energy exchange, right? Even though it's money that we have to deal with right now, right?
Yeah.
And in the future, it may be more bartering or helping each other out, basically, right? Without thinking of value, not tit for tat, but I'll help you out. I'll help you out do this, and that's the way to be. But right now, we still have to deal with the money until that gets taken care of, right?
And we're on the build up to doing that real soon.
That's wonderful. That's great news.
That's wonderful news.
Yeah, that gives me a sigh of relief a little bit, right?
Bear in mind the whole, supposed war with Russia and all of that. That whole thing's a farce. The Ukraine has always been part of Russia. Deep State Cabal had a lot of labs there and processing of the kids they took in bioweapon labs, and it's the Cabal over there is mostly all Nazis or Anunnaki groups, all tied in together. That's why the Trump military, which was comprised of 22 nations around the globe, Russia and China are all going to kind of gang up and take out NATO because it's corrupt. That's why, when Trump was in office, he got us right out of NATO because it's all corrupt individuals. And the current joke is we got, basically, as ridiculous as it sounds, the whole presidency, as far as the public is concerned, is being run by Hollywood. Because they're just actors. The real ones were already taken out, tribunaled, and executed. So the real Biden and his son and all that are already dead. We have actors out there keeping things turning over. So some of them are androids and with cameras in them and transponders and two-way transmitters and things like that, where we can track everybody they come into contact with. That's given us more and more guilty parties to take out. So,
wow, I didn't know that.
There is a purpose to this.
So because it's so deceptive, right? You have to root them out. In other words,
we're playing their own game against them.
Terrific. And every day, this is progressing, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, we may take some steps backwards if they counter with
the certain issues they're going to beat to death and show the people, like how the false election and all that. They're going to beat that to death. They're going to beat to death all the stuff that Biden's been into and his son was into. That's all coming out, hardcore evidence and everything else. They've exposed the whole fact that they actually got a bunch of FBI and CIA officers to sign off on a thing claiming the laptop was fake. Now all that's come out, and who signed it without even reading it and all of that, that's all out there in the public. So, eventually the whole Biden laptop is going to go out and splash. mainstream public. Things like that. The
Right.
whole thing with the Trump being arraigned in New York on charges that aren't legal. All of that. It's all for a purpose to expose the depth of depravity of the deep state. But Trump's still president. We're actually under martial law, and Trump signed the Insurrection Act his very first day in office, and when he walked out, it went into effect. There was no inauguration that was done at a Hollywood studio. In fact, that whole inauguration for Biden was released overseas 4 days before it even happened. And the week before the inauguration, Billy Clinton died of a heart attack and everything. It was in the papers and everything, yet he was at the inauguration. How did that happen? Was he a walking corpse?
Right.
You know what I mean? Things like that. People have 15-minute attention spans, and it just goes right over their head.
So
But
a lot
there's some
of
pretty obvious things there.
proof has been put out there. It's just a matter of noticing it and it triggering some people to awaken. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Hillary's been dead for a long time.
That's nice.
We actually have the recording and everything of her tribunal. She went a little nutsoid at the end, thinking we can't do this to her and everything else. Yeah, she flipped right out.
Well, she was known to do that, right? I mean, yeah.
So,
I mean, one of the best things, the last point here, trying not to emotionally react to the 3D world and all of its trappings that are trying to affect us.
yeah, because when you do that, you're just hurting yourself. You're dragging yourself backwards.
And each other by the fact that we're all connected, correct?
Yeah.
I don't.
The overall frequency as well as your own. It affects everybody, in your immediate vicinity.
And that speaks to our responsibility as well. We need to remember that it's not just affecting us, but we're affecting our neighbor and our friend and this person and that person that are also trying to move forward. If we remain in a lower emotional state and not try to rise above that, or at least go to neutral and ground, right?
Yeah.
So, and especially the next 3 months, I keep hearing from others, and it would be nice to hear from you, that the next 3 months there might be a lot of activity going on.
And yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff coming out now. Case in point, up in Chicago, it's already been ruled. All the people who got fired or lost their job because they refused to take the vax now have to be rehired immediately, recompensated for all the lost income since they were fired for not taking the job, and all their benefits and everything have to be restored and compensated as well.
I did see that today earlier, and we were like, woohoo, good for us. It sets the precedent for the rest of the country, does it not?
Yeah, yes. I can't wait till the whole fact that the whole George Floyd thing was a fake dummy, because he actually died 4 years previous to that in Texas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was just a dummy. And coincidentally, during that event, the big riot that followed right after that event, the only building that burned down was the dummy manufacturing company that made all the CPR dummies and everything. And coincidentally, I got pictures of the guy that runs the company holding the George Floyd dummy up in his hands inside the factory prior to the event. When they were evacuating the body out, they didn't show the legs fell off the gurney. The kneecap down fell right off the gurney onto the ground. And I mean, there were so many things obvious about that being a dummy. But
It was obvious.
fell off
I
the
thought
gurney
at the time.
before they even got it in the ambulance.
Craziness, right?
Hmm?
Little crazy.
Yeah. So the whole
Hard to believe.
the whole Black Lives Matter thing is a farce, based on a farce.
Right.
That was for the Democratic Party to make money.
Good to know. So, everybody, please shut your TVs off, unplug it, and pack it away.
Antifa is even more ridiculous. Well, they took the Nazi youth flag. All they did was change the colors. They're still using the same flag as the Nazi youth program. Antifa. It's the same Nazi youth flag. They just changed the color.
Interesting.
This is why that's saying anybody who doesn't pay attention to history is bound to repeat it, because that's what's happening. Same thing with Common Core. That's the same thing that the Nazis did to the children of Poland. Yep.
That's where it started then.
Yep.
Wow.
But the Pict race was a group of ETs that had kind of settled in northern Europe. Bad guys actually killed them all off using the same mRNA virus that's being deployed to reduce the human population. They killed the entire Pict race off using the same thing. So all this stuff in their playbook, it's not new. They used it once before. Remember the Spanish flu? Same thing.
Yep.
Same thing.
Nothing new under the sun.
No.
Right?
No. So we're trying to actually correct people's minds, and I bitch upstairs because originally they said we can't, stoop to their level to win. But I said, the only way we're going to get through to these people, get them to graduate, is we're going to have to use the mind programming equipment to put the truth into them. So that's what we're reduced to at this point. What you see going on in the media, you notice now they're putting a lot of truth out. And it's getting
more and more.
Yeah, more and more. And you got more and more Democrats, abandoning their party because of it.
So, but we need to exercise discernment.
Yeah.
With everything we hear, even anything we're saying tonight, people have to evaluate it with their higher self, with their link to Creator, and assess it themselves.
When you consider that everything is based on frequency, okay, harmonic frequencies, including keeping your body manifested in what I call manifested land, reality down here. That depends on frequency as well as the rock that's, or the tree outside, or steel bar. It's all harmonic frequency. So there's a lot of ways you can treat people and help them. And we had the slide on that earlier. Everything from sound to oils to, I didn't get a chance to put her link in yet, JD's link for the Genius. That's a harmonic and audio mixture. Some people use stones. That can work. It's really a personal preference thing in what the individual is most comfortable with and can mentally accept, because if mentally they can't accept that and it's outside their worldview, it won't work, because they'll actually be energetically blocking it. So,
right, like somebody might have been told by their religion that Reiki is evil, right?
Yeah.
And so they won't respond to that, but they may respond to having a crystal and working with that, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. You know, it could go with anything.
Or cymatics.
Yes, we do have that. We have that slide upcoming, actually. So we can go into each of those areas in particular for healing. But did you want to discuss what Selmniac does?
It's a salt. Okay, used to be everybody took it in one form or another. Currently, most of your Scandinavian countries are the only ones that are still heavily imbibing of it. It's in everything. Their food, their candy, their alcohol. I mean, the interesting thing is after Chernobyl, they didn't get any cancers yet. People who came and visited their country, generally for a week or two, when they went home within 2 years, they were coming down with cancers. It's a gyroscopic transmitter, and when you go to repair your 2-pole DNA back to 3, which is what it was originally, without salmonaic, you get 3 negatives charges. It pushes it apart and prevents that 3rd pole from being reformed. Salmonaic will actually cancel that out. And it's a direct gyroscopic transmitter that can receive from your mind, and your mind can actually reprogram your DNA using visualization techniques and to cause it to manifest. All the coding is there. The conversation I went back and had with Gaia, that's one of the things we changed. Because
So
right now, prior to that, men didn't carry mtDNA, they do now. And there's all the coding is there, and whether you're male or female, to do a rebuild. I made sure of that.
Great, great. So everything is within us.
Yeah.
It just needs to be activated in some way. And help in doing visualization or meditation, and visualization can help that process. So, you know, I have taken this this candy, and I've tried it initially in the black licorice form, which was a little bitter. And the one we have on the slide, the Turkish Peeber, I put that link to Amazon because that tastes like a root beer barrel almost.
Yep.
It can be a little salty, but if you just let it, if you just allow it to be in your mouth for a while, it's really good, actually.
Become accustomed to it. It's these. I eat them because I like them, and they do kind of energize me a little bit. But I mean, I'm already 3 poles, so I'm a throwback.
Okay.
But it's
So
part of the reason with that sort of thing and all the coding being there is why it's happening in the womb. For the women, it's all stored in the mtDNA, all the replacement code to come back to the 3-pole. That's why we're having a lot of indigo children, what they're calling indigo children being born. That's 3-pole, 48 chromosome, back to origin.
Wow.
You have to teach them anything. They already know.
So more parents should listen to them. Right?
Yep.
What is the pineal gland exercise that you were talking to us about?
That's to open your 3rd eye to get you so you can, see remotely and things like that. But the most important issue with the 3rd eye is once you learn how to use it, you open it, and it helps with your discernment, especially when dealing with others who've been hijacked or got dark entities riding them and whatnot. You'll get so you'll see it. Not with these eyes, but with that one, even though your eyes are open.
And you can practice, say, with your eyes closed.
I taught, you put your 2 fingers on your eyes and just press lightly until you get the dots. That you don't want to press hard. You don't want to damage your eye. Just enough to get the dots that you can see in your mind's eye. And then you merge the dots, and then expand it open to look like a little television screen or a laptop screen, and just see what comes to you. That's how you actually can initially develop that third eye.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Because
That's wonderful.
most people will see colors and things like that. You close your eyes, put your fingertips on, and lightly press the fingers in. You'll see something. You see two little dots, red, black, whatnot. Me, I can't even do it anymore. I just happen to remember how I used to teach people this little multi incarnations ago, because I've always got the black screen in there, so that I could just remotely project. But that's just something that came back to me from a very long time ago.
That's wonderful. Yes. Anything that can help, right? And everyone's different. So some people will react differently to each activity. So
that kind of like forces the issue, because by doing that with your lids closed and pressing on it, it forces the energy into your third eye. With your eyes closed, if you picture something in your mind, most of the time you're using your third eye, not in the way it's supposed to be used, but yeah. If you have a really good imagination in creating things and whatnot, you're generally using the engine of your third eye without having the screen turned on.
Okay.
So I'm forcing people to turn the screen on.
Right. Let's turn the channel or turn it on.
Yeah.
So the pendulum and the dowsing rods, they're activities where you learn to ask your higher self questions and get a yes or a no to clarify maybe a question you have or something like that.
The gods or goddesses will help out sometimes too if they can answer.
Really?
The god of India there, the goddess that sometimes has the elephant head, she was actually working on Gaia's behalf, just like Shiva was, and still does. Shiva's been really helpful in this battle. So, and she's not Shiva the destroyer. It's Shiva the destroyer of ignorance. That's the full statement. They actually shaved some off of that to make her, the evil one.
Oh, so they left a couple words out to change the context.
Of ignorance. She's a destroyer of ignorance, yes.
I never heard that. That's interesting to take in. So, visualization we talked about, and we can visualize or imagine our future or what abilities we might be able to have. I mean, imagination is often talked about as the key. If you can imagine it, it's possible. Correct?
If you can imagine it, you can do it. Effectively speaking. If you've worked hard enough to at least be able to mentally rebuild your third pole of DNA in your body, you can properly work with energy without, spontaneously combusting and things of that nature, which we're going to get into how the difference between 2-pole and 3-pole and how and why spontaneous combustion happens.
Wow. Do you want to go into that now since we're talking about it?
It's a 2-pole person trying to do a 3-pole person's abilities. You do that with only 2-pole, and you try to draw that much energy up through the middle of your DNA, you're going to catch everything on fire. And that's what spontaneous combustion is.
So it's an overload of power.
It burns
the
the
system
sugars.
that can't handle it.
It burns the sugars. The hydrogen goes boom, and then it ignites the phosphorus poles. Up you go.
Yeah. Wow. We will talk about that a little bit more later on. We have some graphics for that. Well, not a graphic, not a nasty graphic.
I did to show why and what each part of your DNA, each single link across is actually made of. then you'll really comprehend it. If you try and draw that much energy up through, yeah, you're gonna catch on fire.
Right, right. I know there's several herbs and resins and berries, like Shoshana berry or Shalazite resin high in the Himalayas, different herbs that can be used also along with vitamins and good food and good water. What you take in affects your frequency, correct?
Some stuff helps, other stuff no.
I know a lot of the
And a lot of
teas.
one of the biggest important points, ain't none of it going to work if your body's not alkaline. If you go acid, you're basically powering the nanotech that they're shoving into everything, because now they're going to start putting it in the beef and the pork and everything else. The people who refuse to get the jab, they're going to end up eating it.
Because they're going to introduce it into the animal population.
Yeah, they're giving the mRNA viral injections to cows and pigs now.
That's important to know.
And they're not going to label it. They've already, done a trick to get around having to label that it's genetically modified.
I hope that could stop soon. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice if we could get that done, right?
Yep. I
have several different incenses that I use. I use frankincense and myrrh sometimes. White sage. That used to be my favorite, but I think now Palo Santo is my favorite. It's very, very nice.
The problem I have with incense, it's too small an amount, and it directly depends on the damage you've had to your sinuses and to your lung tissue, on how much you can pick up that way. Most of what incense are done, it's essential oils that are steeped and then burned to do it that way. But there's some people that's the only way you're going to get them to accept it anyway.
Right.
And
right.
we're back to that same question.
Well, I'd rather have some incense than, in high pollen season, breathing in the allergens.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So.
I mean, like frankincense and myrrh, those two are like what I like is the lavender. You're better off just using the essential oils and putting it directly on you. You'll get a much higher uptake. But
right, the absorption.
They're the same thing applied two different ways.
Yes, that's a good point to make. That really is, because the essential oils, I think they absorb within 3 seconds if you put it on the palm of your hand or your bottom of your foot, right?
Yeah.
And your skin is your biggest organ.
Yeah.
And it's important to address it as well. And people don't really think about that so much because we take our skin for granted because we see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to take care of. How about crystals? What are the best crystals for manifesting or?
Again, it depends on what you want, what you're doing. All those crystals underground, those big, huge caverns full of crystals, all the crystals are cloudy. It's because they're full of information. The clear crystals are empty, and you can put your own, or sync all your messed up issues with your life. You can actually use crystals as like a messed up energy from your life sink.
Okay, so if you're having a bad day, surround yourself with clear crystals.
And just dump. Yeah.
Say, please, soak it up, take it away. Right?
Yeah. And cymatics, that's, harmonic frequencies. You could do it everything from musical instruments, specific beats, Lydian scale, of music is why what the trick is used, because, and they actually made it illegal to teach all the way back in the days of Greece and all of that. If you go to the high-end music colleges and all that, they can't stop you from learning it, but they won't teach it, and they've got nothing on it. You have to, do that yourself. But primarily, all your church music is linear scale, and that applies directly to cymatics and how it affects your body.
Well, that ends part 1 of a multiple series coming forward from Pattie. Please check your notifications and your subscriptions to make sure that the bell has been enabled for you to receive notifications for part 2 and any other parts of this series. And look out for a Q&A session with Pattie that we will be scheduling in the near future. So stay tuned and keep posted on this channel. And thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Who's the one who can rise above? Take a chance, do it all for love and no regrets. Up ahead there's an open door, and I gotta find what I'm looking for, and I'm on my way. Well, time moves on and the days go by,